about 3 weeks before filming, I just said, we cannot cast a kid who's not the kid. I know with casting, you just have to hang in there. And sure enough, the day after I said, we have to keep looking, Carrie, our casting director, called me up. He said, this audition tape just came in and the kid lives in New Jersey. I looked at the tape and it was William. And, wow. It's what you saw. And I thought, we got to meet this kid. Can he come meet Bobby tomorrow? So his parents, and he came into the city, and I went out to the waiting room to meet him, and I saw him, and it literally was like Tony's son, Dimitri, who the movie's based on. I ran back into the room. I was like, Tony, it's Dimitri out there.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a comedian embarks on a road trip with his autistic son in director Tony Goldwyn's comedic drama, Ezra. The film tells the story of Max, a stand-up comedian struggling to co-parent his autistic son Ezra with his ex-wife. But when he's forced to confront difficult decisions about his son's future, Max and Ezra embark on a cross-country road trip that has a transcendent impact on both their lives. In addition to Ezra, Goldwyn's other directorial credits include the feature films Conviction, The Last Kiss, Someone Like You, and A Walk on the Moon, and episodes of the series Scandal, Justified, Damages, Dexter, Grey's Anatomy, and Law & Order. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in New York, Goldwyn spoke with director Michael Pressman about filming Ezra. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
What a beautiful film, huh?
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Beautiful work. It's so great to see you.
So great to see you after just a few months.
Yeah, I know. We finally got to work together on Law and Order. I was going to also say, in addition to the beautiful work, and I will get to that in a minute, it's such an intimate, beautiful work.
Oh, thanks, Michael.
And Tony is not only a wonderful actor. I've seen him on stage. I've seen other films, which I've loved. He's a terrific director. And I suppose we might know you more as an actor, but you are truly a wonderful director.
Oh, thank you.
And the thing that is the thread of his work is a kind of honesty and a simplicity, and your soul is bared honest in this movie. I was overwhelmed. And there's lots of questions, and I will also open it up to all of us here. One comment I want to make before I get into some questions, but this is going to be a question. De Niro, okay, probably the best performance in a long time from him.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
I was waiting for the, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And there was a directness, and there was a bravery, and I understood him. And in the turn at the end, oh my God. You want to talk a little bit about the relationship with De Niro in terms of creatively? Was there?
Sure, yeah. It was obviously quite a life experience to get to work with Bob, who's all of our hero, one of our icons. He was the first person we had thought of for the character of Stan. So a lot of you guys who are directors here know, I never thought we'd get him,
right.
But he connected with the material and responded right away. It was quite an intensive process working with Bob. Once he decided to engage, he really engaged.
Right.
And the script that Bob first read, the character of Stan was quite different. He was much more lighthearted, and he was sort of quick with a quip. I think that Tony sort of had in mind someone like Alan Arkin's character in Little Miss Sunshine, the funny grandpa who was sort of edgy, but always there. And Bob said to Tony, he said, I really think the script is beautiful, but I'm not sure it's for me, the role. He said, there's no scene where he said, when I do a movie, there has to be like one scene and I'm doing that movie to do that scene. And it's not really in the movie. And we kind of listened to him and he said, and it's too jokey. Like, why all the jokes? He said, what really happened? And because this is based on my friend Tony's life. Tony Spiridakis, who wrote the script, has an autistic son and went through a real odyssey with his son and wanted to write a movie about it. And, so Bob was like, don't rely on the jokes. Like, what's the truth? So they started talking about Stan and what Tony did is he went back and completely rewrote the character for Bob and really sort of leaned into the idea of this intergenerational trauma and the potential, although we have no idea, potentially intergenerational spectrum, association. So
that's a great contribution.
Really was De Niro. I mean, it was sort of hinted at, but Bob just kind of was like made Tony really bear down, and it gave and that scene in the diner that you referenced at the end, that scene was just a very brief sort of comic little scene. And Tony realized, oh my God, there's an opportunity here.
Wow.
So in about 2 weeks, he wrote that whole thing and Bob really liked it. And that's when he said yes. And
wow. Well,
so it was
you have to give yourself credit too, because as a director, and what I see is there's an effortlessness about what you do. So in some respects, being open to a De Niro who might intimidate, instead, Tony, whom I don't know, but obviously we'll get to that in a minute, but you guided that, at least you opened it and said, you welcomed it. And sometimes that's good directing, is welcoming the contribution. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you work like this. Basically, as a director, you want to just, in a certain sense, stay out of the way.
Yes.
In other words, empower actors to be their best selves and not. So, honestly, that's what I felt like I was doing. There was the intimidation factor when you work with icons like De Niro, but you just have to get over that. So if there's something that needs focus, you get right in there. And
that's a great contribution.
And that also makes an actor feel confident. It makes them feel comfortable and safe. Because honestly, we're all terrified. And
right.
Bob would say, you sure you got what you wanted? Is it good enough? I'm not sure I got there. Or the very first scene we shot was the scene with him and Rose outside the apartment building. Oh, and we did his coverage first, and then we did Rose's coverage. And when he saw what Rose did, he came up to me and said, Tony, I don't think I was good enough. He said, I didn't realize she was going to do what she did. And could we do my side again? Which of course means, this is a low budget movie. It's like, we didn't have much time, but it meant relighting the thing. But if Robert De Niro asks you to do it again, you say yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, sure. And sure enough, it made a real difference.
Well, you're also talking about something that is one of the most critical things in directing, which is gaining the trust of the actor, and the actor realize they're being heard, because I don't know how far in, but there may be a moment 10 days in or 15 days in where it's like, no, you got it. You're okay. Yeah. And he can believe you because when he felt strongly enough about something, you heard him and said, no, let's go back and do it again.
Totally. Yeah. And there's always time for I find also with actors, if they want to try something, you always say yes.
Yeah.
There's always time to do that. So no matter how tight your schedule is, it's a weird, time is a weird thing. And if you resist that because you're worried about time, you're going to be there twice as long.
Right.
It's axiomatic. It won't go well. It'll be bumpy. I don't know. Right. It's a weird thing.
No, I've had those moments as well. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, which is your relationship to Tony. And I gather it goes back almost 40 years.
Over 40 years, yeah.
Over 40 years. Yeah. And it was Williamstown, right?
Yeah, Tony Spiridakis and I met. He started out as an actor. And my very first job, I was still in college, was to work at the Williamstown Theater Festival in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, which is a great summer theater, was the great, American summer theater to work at. So we were both young, like non-equity members. They sort of have like kids who are in drama school and college play the little parts. And we met that way and became instant best friends and have kind of shared our careers and our families together and been best men at each other's weddings. And well, I've only had one wedding. He's had several, but godfather of each other's kids. And
so there was that. And then comes the script off his own personal life.
Yeah.
And you had read it initially. And
yeah, he told me, I'd sort of lived through this really tough time he went through in his marriage, and Tony's marriage broke up. And when he told me he had given a TED talk about being a parent of an autistic kid, and that kind of inspired him to make a film about it. So for several years, I just would read drafts of it as a friend, because we often share each other's work, or he'll come see me in a play and give me notes. He's one of those people. We all have people that we want to show our work and get feedback from. So I was not even thinking about directing it. In fact, I think through those years, I was on a television series, so I wouldn't have been able to anyway. And a couple of years ago, he said, I've rewritten the script, and would you take a look at it? And I read it, and really, it just hit me.
Wow.
Maybe it was the point in my life, it just really hit me hard. And I've been thinking, maybe I want to direct another movie. And I just said, we need to do this together.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, thank you.
Me too. Did. So into the casting of this amazing young man. It's William
Fitzgerald.
Yeah. How did that come about? And can you share something about your process with him?
Sure. Well, first thing was, from the second we decided to do it, we knew we were going to cast an autistic actor to play Ezra. There was no way we were going to cast a neurotypical actor to play that kid. So we, our casting directors, Carrie Barden and Paul Schnee, teamed up with, we brought in some consultants from the autism community, an incredible woman named Elaine Hall, and a guy called Alex Plank, who was also one of our associate producers, who is autistic, and reached out into the autism theater groups for kids, Facebook groups, community groups, parents, just all different kinds of things all around the country, and had kids submit auditions who were interested. And we saw maybe 100 young autistic actors, some of whom had acted before, most of whom who had not. We did some Zoom callbacks, and then flew a couple of kids who seemed, most right to New York to meet with Bobby Cannavale and work with him, and we couldn't find him. We saw some amazing young men, but it wasn't Ezra. And about 3 weeks before filming, I just said, we cannot cast a kid who's not the kid. It's not going to work. And I know with casting, you just have to hang in there. It's a weird alchemy, and you have to have patience and just wait until I'm sure you've experienced that. It's an incredible.
You're making me think of a great quote that was said to me by the famous director Martin Ritt, and it was at a class, and he said, "Cast well, you'll direct well."
Yes, always. It really is the key. And so you just got to kind of grunt it out. And sure enough, the day after I said, we have to keep looking, Carrie, our casting director, called me up. He said, this audition tape just came in, and the kid lives in New Jersey. And we'd flown in kids from California and Texas, to meet with Bobby with their parents and the whole thing. And I said, he lives in Jersey? He said, yeah, he's in Montclair. And I said, I looked at the tape, and it was William. And, it's what you saw. And I thought, oh my God, we got to meet this kid. Can he come meet Bobby tomorrow? So his parents, and he came into the city, and I went out to the waiting room to meet him, and I saw him, and it literally was like Tony's son, Dimitri, who the movie's based on, at 12 years old. It literally was spitting image. I ran back into the room. I was like, Tony, it's Dimitri out there. And William just came in, and it was instantaneous. We knew he would totally unintimidated, very comfortable being in his own skin, which is the thing you pray for with an actor, and unintimidated by Bobby or Bob or anybody else, and just a natural.
And so in the course of shooting, how much was articulated to him, or how much was sort of in the organic area?
Yeah, much more the latter. Yeah. We talked a lot with William's parents about the accommodations we would need to make for certain sensitivities he has as a kid on the spectrum. And once we had those kind of dialed in, it was just like working with any brilliant child actor. And always with good actors, but certainly with children as a director, you have to be very clear and precise and simple in what you say.
Right.
Because so I'd start to talk and explain something, and within 10 seconds, William's eyes would be rolling up at the back of his head, or he'd just walk away or something. Or more often, he'd say, "Yeah, Tony, I got it. Let me just do it."
Yeah.
So I kind of realized, I kind of just let him do his thing, and he just knew what he was doing. So,
and did you do a lot of takes with him, or you try to keep it less? Or was he getting it right at the beginning?
He tended to get it right at the beginning. I mean, if we didn't get it right, I'd make him do more.
You knew when you had it. Yeah.
But it was more about just creating an environment, and it was a lot of times letting the camera just roll, because one of the advantages of shooting digitally, you can let the camera roll and end up burning too much film. And we shot this on an Alexa, so we would just do multiple takes on one roll. So I could just say, "Do it. Let's do it again. Go again. Go again. Go again." And then he and Bobby had this tremendous chemistry, and they just
Bobby was terrific, and it was great to see Rose Byrne. They're married.
They're married. Yeah.
But they were playing divorced or getting divorced. It was very. They played wonderfully together, and he played beautifully with the boy. I mean, just
they had great chemistry, and he and Rose loving working together.
And another film came to my mind. I wonder if this is something that you may have thought of, but because of the way it was shot, which I thought was so intensely intimate. And I don't know if you and the cameraman Danny Motor talked about it, but I kept thinking of Rain Man.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Rain Man.
Yeah. Only because I remember in Rain Man and seeing it in a movie theater, it was also very intense. I mean, the close-ups were really close, and it had that same kind of bringing you in kind of.
Yeah, it's interesting that I can't remember if there were any sort of shot references from Rain Man. We thought a lot about Kramer versus Kramer. Speaking of Dustin Hoffman and with children.
Yeah.
What else were our references? Harold and Maude. We sort of. I don't know. There was a lot, but we did. Yeah. We talked a lot about Rain Man, and
but you did consciously shoot tight and close, and then.
Yeah, that was really just the intimacy that we wanted. It was a lot of it was handheld.
Yeah.
So that it was, because Max is in a very unstable state of mind. So that also really helped us on our schedule. We had a 25-day schedule. So I had never shot a movie that fast before. And Danny and I just were like, well, let's create a style for the movie that's going to help us. And the handheld, and we wanted it very subjective. So there weren't a lot of big wide shots,
And when they were there, they were at the right moment, like in the farm situation.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the movie is, Max's situation is very claustrophobic. He's freaking out at the beginning of the movie. Right. So it needed, all the comedy club scenes are basically like tight on him pretty much. Because I wanted to be in his experience.
I think, and I sort of will open it up to the audience here if anybody wants to ask any questions. But I think you accomplished all that. I mean, what you're saying was experienced. I mean, it really felt it was uncomfortable. You were there. You felt the intensity, and congratulate you on it. And it's a beautiful film. It really is, and it's going to have a life.
Oh, good. I hope so.
It will. It will. It's an important film.
Yeah. Audiences have really been responding to it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And
the autistic community too has really embraced it. Thank God. Because that was a big concern of mine, of all of ours moving through this, that we get that part right.
Well, anybody have anything they want to ask? Yes. So I'm going to repeat this question did your friend really kidnap his son?
No. The story, no, the actual, those big plot events like the kidnapping did not happen. That was Tony's invention. In the same way that he's a screenwriter and not a stand-up comic, but he didn't do that. He probably thought about it a few times.
Did he take over his son from his first wife? Was there a custody battle in their lives?
No, there actually was not. They went through a very difficult divorce, and had, what was true was were tremendously at odds about how to deal with Dimitri's challenges. Dimitri was this very like super advanced academically, and really struggled socially, and was very, very disruptive in school, and would say anything that came to his mind. You know, he'd tell his teachers they were idiots. He would disrupt the class all the time, leave the kids out on the street. That happened. You know, so there were most of the like smaller events in the film actually are true. The stuff about Risperdal, Tony didn't punch the doctor, but he wanted to. But that scene with the doctor literally was that was true, except for him hitting the doctor. But no, they were very much at odds, but they ultimately, you know, co-parented, and that was all great. And as I think that whatever happens with Max and Jenna, I think they will do the same, you know. But he didn't have that much of a freak. And in fact, in Tony's situation, his wife Nikki, she prevailed, and Dimitri ended up in a school for autistic kids, and it was amazing for him, which Tony fought like crazy, and it was tremendous for him. And then he ended up going to Bard College and you know, mainstream college. So every kid's different, you know. It just was.
Well, it's a dramatization of those feelings and those thoughts. I have one other thing I want to ask, and that is, I read that in the working relationship that you had with Tony, that you really allowed him to be on the set and participate as the writer, and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, so Tony, when we decided to do this, I said, we're doing this, we're attached at the hip, we're producing it together, I'm directing, but you're involved in every decision. So that was, because it was his story, he's my best friend, that's why I did it. I was like, you know, yes, we hope we make a great movie, and we hope people love it, and we hope it actually comes out in movie theaters, which thank God it has. But you never know. And when I thought, but we're going to, for our friend, this will be an expression of our 40-year friendship. So that was my motivation. But that said, so he was with me all the time. That said, from the very first movie I directed, I've always wanted the writer with me all the time. Because when the first movie I directed, which was 20 years ago, more than 25 years ago, Walk on the Moon, it just seemed normal. Like I couldn't believe, I was shocked when I heard that studios didn't want the writer around. Like studios tend to be threatened by a writer being on set. They think they're going to cause problems. They're going to get in the director's ear, or producers people get really weirdly nervous about it. And it's the greatest benefit. Yeah. And it makes you work faster. And if there's a problem to be solved, you can go, this isn't working. Go rewrite that scene. So in Tony's case, like, he was on every location scout with me. And when our first AD would say, oh, we got a problem. We got 3 scenes in this location, and you know, we'd only have time. And he's like, well, we'll just combine these 2 scenes into one, and then that'll save us half a day. And that, you know, so the benefits are tremendous. And so it's something I've always believed in, but I've always, until this film, I've always had to fight for it.
Right.
One time I even told a studio I would pay to have the writer, I paid to have the writer on set, and I paid their per diem, and the studio ended up reimbursing me.
I think it's admirable, and it's interesting that there's such a war that still exists between the guilds about this. You know, I mean, the directors would, I think a lot of directors do like having the writer with them. I mean, I do as well. I think in television, sometimes it gets imbalanced. That's a separate subject. But in terms of the movies, it's a gift to have the person who wrote the material to be able to help and guide and share your feelings and your thoughts.
Totally.
Yeah. You know, I was also going to say, I mean, Walk on the Moon, and I don't know how many people have seen that movie, but it's a beautiful, beautiful film. And I had mentioned when I first saw you again, it's been too long since you've been directing movies. So
yeah, I've done a few in between.
I know, but I mean,
but
listen, you've had another career, so you know.
No, it's been a while. This last movie I did, Conviction, was like almost 15 years ago. So it was right before Scandal that I did that, which was a TV series on for a while. Yeah.
Anything else? And yes. So the question is really about the transitions between directing to acting, and maybe back and forth. Is there an issue or is it easy thing for you to
It's a natural thing, I guess. I came to directing, honestly, years ago when I did A Walk on the Moon. The one thing about being an actor really was hard for me was the lack of control over your career and your lack of self-determination. So I started to try and generate my own material in my 30s. And then I found this script and decided, I'm going to produce this movie. And then it came together and I decided, I really had to direct it, mainly because I didn't want to give it to somebody else because I'd worked so hard on it. I didn't know that I wanted to be a director. And when I did it, it felt very natural, like, I feel like I know how to do this. But then going back and forth, it's a beautiful thing because directing is so intense and so much pressure that it's a relief to just be able to focus on just my own thing when I'm acting.
Right. I've actually acted as well, and I've always found that it's a tremendous relief from directing, where you are basically responsible for the whole story and the whole journey of all the characters and everything, and it weighs on you, and then all of a sudden, all that is off your shoulders, and you're going, I only have to worry about this one character.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, you can get a little tunnel visioned as an actor, and so I've been acting for a long time. I feel like I want to get involved when everyone else is doing. I want to get off of myself and get out and.
Well, there's nothing more exciting than that job of directing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes. Dude, the question is, did you get involved in the story?
Dimitri.
Oh, Dimitri. Tony's son.
As if Tony's son Dimitri got involved in the writing of the story. I would say yes and no. That's a really interesting question. He didn't get involved in the writing of it, but he did in certain ways. Like Tony did, like a sort of not even a proof of concept, just as an experiment. He wanted to film one scene from the movie, the script he was working on, and he made kind of like a short of the scene with the horse. And Dimitri played Ezra, and Dimitri was about 15 or something at the time, or 16. And there was and they'd made this little short of this scene, and Dimitri was improvising. And so, for example, when Ezra says, she says, you pat the horse on the side of its cheek and say, hello, Bosco. And he says, hello, Pastor King. I bet he likes pastures. That was just an ad lib of Dimitri's. Dimitri, instead of saying, hi, Bosco, he said, hello, Pastor King. And Tony thought that was amazing and put it in. And a number of the lines in the script, some are Williams that he improvised, but a lot of the lines of Ezra's in the script are things that Dimitri just said. So a lot of them are like probably things like, I wasn't going to let the train go off the rails. That's the kind of stuff Dimitri would always say to Tony. So he contributed in that way, but he didn't actually work on the script with him.
I think we're good. Anyway, again, thank you for the movie.
Oh, thank you all. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for doing this, Michael. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America